video, but it was left on another video about adoption, and since I'm an adoptee, I'm totally going to comment on this. The misconception that people have about adopted children through the foster care system, DHS, DCF, whatever you want to call it, it's honestly appalling that most of you are so ignorant that you support something that you don't even fully comprehend. I was in the system, in foster care. I was adopted through the system. My parents continued to foster other children for an additional decade. When I became of age, and I was 21, which is the bare minimum age requirement in my state, I also then became a foster parent. With that being said, I have more experience than most in this area. Whenever you sign up to be a foster parent, you were required to take certain classes to become a certified or licensed home. When you take these classes, you are taught that foster parents are a bridge to reunification, because the goal is supposed to always be reunification. If you are fertile or you have fertility issues and you are unable to bear your own children, it is not the responsibility of others who can procreate life to procreate that life for you. As a foster parent, you receive what's called a monthly stipend. In my state, for an infant under 1, it's $124 a month. The older that they get, the more your monthly stipend is. So my first foster was 15. His monthly stipend was $600-something, and that was in 2014. With that being said, whenever you finalize an adoption, at least in my state, there's a $13,000 tax credit per child that you would receive upon the completion of the adoption. In my state, or at least in my personal situation, my parents adopted myself, and I have 2 older twin brothers that are 11 months older than me. They were 40 years old, and they adopted 3 children under 3 at the same time. My parents received $900-something a month for us, which they continued to receive until we were 18 years old. I was adopted and finalized at 2, and they were at 3. So my parents received that $900 until we were 18. They also received the tax credits, and even though they made amazing money, my mother was an RN and my father was a state supervisor for all of the water treatment plants here, they still received these stipends and assistance, quite literally only because we were adopted through the state. Then we had insurance through their work and employers, and we also had secondary insurance through the state, like Medicaid. The adoptive parents obviously have to spend money on an attorney. They have to have a bedroom provided with a dresser, a bed, the clothes. They need to be able to pass a home study. So there is quite a bit of money being spent. And if you think that money is not exchanging hands, that is very much so where your ignorance comes in. Even when adopting through the state, you are very much paying for the dream. The people that have the most monetary value or the most assets are the ones that are going to accomplish this the fastest and first. They spend the money on these big houses that they can't afford, that have a $1,000 mortgage on them. They have $500 car payments. They make very good money, but they have a very large amount of debt. And they spend all of this money on a persona, right? On a front for whenever they come in to do these home inspections. You saying that these children are not bought is wild to me, especially when it comes through the state. Can you tell me how many missing children have come up missing while in the state's care, while they were awarded the state, that are still unaccounted for in the last 5 years? Because DCF, DHS, the state, whatever you want to call it, they're the largest legal human trafficking ring. And unless you are adopted, you are an adoptee. I don't care if you're an adopted parent. Your opinion and your voice doesn't count, baby. It doesn't count. The other thing I want to point out is all of the assistance going to these adoptive parents could have certainly been applied to the biological family. Most of these children that are removed from poverty. Their families are not informed about their rights. They do not even understand that DHS, DCF, they actually do not ever have any jurisdiction over you or your child as a private citizen. DHS is a private, for-profit organization, and they are not the government. Being poor is not a crime. But most of these children that are, quite frankly, stolen and sold for profit, taken from their family, from their heritage, from their identity, from their culture, they cannot give consent. A child cannot give consent, okay? They do not even fully comprehend the ramifications of that consent, if they were even legally able to give it. Now, when my adoption was finalized, of course my parents took me and my 2 older twin brothers in front of a judge. And at 2 and 3 years old, we shook our head and we said yes. I did not fully comprehend that my mother was not my biological mother until the 1st grade in the morning car drop-off line at school.